If you just develop tinnitus, there's about an 80% chance it's related to your hearing. But is it? Well, here are 5 steps to help you find out whether your tinnitus is linked to hearing loss or to something else and what you can do next. Step 1. Visit your doctor. It's important you make an appointment at your general practitioner to get yourself checked. Because there are some rare diseases such as otosclerosis and Meniere's disease, as well as high blood pressure, for example, that can actually cause tinnitus. Now don't worry, you probably don't have any of these, but you do want to rule them out. And if your doctor sees something that requires more attention, you can request to be sent to an ENT, which is an ear, nose and throat specialist, who can do more tests. Here in the Netherlands, the ENT specialists are covered by insurance. I know it's different all around the world. So you should visit them if you are not satisfied with the analysis of your doctor, or if you have more worries, or if your doctor sends you to an ENT, him or herself. So because of the long waiting list for an ENT, it's good to set this in motion as soon as possible if you know you want to visit one. Okay, so after visiting your doctor, you know whether there are any underlying medical causes. On to step 2. Get a hearing test. You can ask your doctor for a referral to an audiologist, and then you'll be sure that the quality of the hearing test is good. Or you can find one yourself. Now, even if you can't change the state of your hearing anymore, so if you have hearing loss, you can't repair that, it's still important to know where you stand. Make sure you don't walk into the first random hearing store in your street, but verify that you are checked using a professional soundproof cabin like the one you see in this image. Otherwise, the test doesn't say much because it's not accurate, and an inaccurate test leads to the wrong conclusions and the wrong next steps. So you will sit in this cabin and hear a series of beeps with varying frequencies and loudness levels, and every time you hear a beep, you click a button, and that's how the audiologist determines your hearing loss at different frequencies. The result of this test is what we call an audiogram. Now on to step 3 to check if your tinnitus means hearing loss, reading your audiogram. Ask your audiologist to send you or print out your audiogram. And this is what an audiogram looks like. We won't go into that much detail because I have another video on my channel on how to read an audiogram. So for now we will only focus on the most important part, the hearing loss in the left and right ear. The audiogram you see here is my own, and normally there are 2 diagrams, one for the left ear and one for the right ear. But for the sake of simplicity, I only show the left ear in this image. This is, by the way, the ear where I hear my tinnitus. Okay, so how does it work? On the vertical axis, you see numbers going from -10 to 120, and that axis shows the amount of decibel of hearing loss. So 0 means perfect hearing, like a child, and the more the line drops down, the more hearing loss. Now, the horizontal axis, it goes from 125 Hz to 8 kHz in this example, and that is the frequency. So 125 Hz are low frequencies and 8000 Hz are very high frequencies. Okay, so now that we know that, let's read the audiogram. My hearing is actually very good until 4 kHz, as I'm between 0 and 10 decibels of hearing loss, which is excellent for my age. But at the 4000 Hz line, the line starts dropping and it ends up about at -25 decibels of hearing loss, and then it goes back up. And by the way, you can always pause this video and comment below if you have any questions or need my help. Okay, so you now know how much hearing loss you have. Your audiologist will tell you whether it is what you would expect for your age or not. So they might say, yeah, this is what we normally see for someone your age, or they would say something like, this is a little bit more or a little bit less than we would expect for your age. But having hearing loss doesn't necessarily mean that your tinnitus is caused just by the hearing loss alone. There are many other factors that can contribute. You can even get tinnitus without detectable hearing loss. And I have another video called the 7 common causes of tinnitus that you should watch next if you want to know more about the different causes of tinnitus. Anyway, at least you now know whether your hearing is probably a contributing factor to your tinnitus or not. You have had your doctor check, you have your audiogram, and you know how to interpret your audiogram. So let's go on to step 4. Step 4 is to follow the advice from your audiologist. Depending on the amount of hearing loss, basically 2 things can happen. 1, your audiologist says, well, your hearing is fine for your age. Yeah, there's nothing that can be done. Or you have more than 35 to 40 decibels of hearing loss and you might benefit from a hearing aid. Now, if you are recommended to wear a hearing aid, then I would definitely advise you to try them out. They usually help with tinnitus because you hear more from the outside, so to say, and so your tinnitus, which is inside your head, sounds relatively less loud. So while you wear your hearing aids, you usually are bothered less by your tinnitus. And that effect is of course gone when you take your hearing aids out at night, so it's not a cure of some sorts, but it can help. And sometimes your audiologist recommends getting hearing aids just to play masking sounds. Now that is what I call the old form of tinnitus retraining therapy, and that is not required to get tinnitus relief, because it's often difficult to apply correctly and it's also quite cumbersome if you have to wear these masking devices all day. So studies indicate that there is significant proof that that is not really necessary, although the basics of TRT are still very beneficial, and I also include them in a sort of tinnitus retraining therapy light version in my own course. At the end of this video, I'll tell you about that easier way to get tinnitus relief without wearing these masking devices. Now, if you are recommended hearing aids because of your hearing loss, and they also say, okay, you can play masking sounds all day now that you have your hearing aids, I still would not recommend to play masking sounds all day. If you have any questions about this, comment below. Let's go to the last step. Step 5. Get hearing protection. In over 80% of cases, tinnitus is caused by some degree of hearing loss. And hearing loss happens when the tiny hair cells in the cochlea of the ear, which is a very small part of your inner ear, become damaged or even completely destroyed. The problem is that once these hair cells in your ear are damaged, they can't be repaired. And they are responsible for transmitting sound waves to electrical signals which your brain interprets as sound. Now, these hair cells are too tiny and delicate for any surgical procedure to restore them, which is why you need to wear earplugs to protect them and to prevent further hearing loss. If you want to know at which occasions and which sound volumes you should wear earplugs, I have another video on my channel about that. But for now, I advise you to get special earplugs with music filters in them, like these ones. Okay, these are very nice because there I have them on my keychain and they look something like this. Let's see, like this. Let's see if I can get them in focus. Yeah, well, they're a little bit dirty, but they have this, see, they have these music filters in them. And because of these, I can actually enjoy the music, but not get hearing damage. Yeah, and then we also have these traditional earplugs. Yeah, we all know these ones. These are not so suitable for listening to music. They don't really let you enjoy the music because they take away too much of the different frequencies. And then if you work in construction, we also have something like this, which is ideal and very cheap. Now, if you determine you have some hearing loss, don't get angry at yourself, but rather focus on the next steps. Just because the hair cells in your ear can't be restored, there is something that can be done about tinnitus, whether you have hearing loss or not. And I recommend to follow these 3 steps. Number 1, leave a comment below if you have any questions or need help. Number 2, hit subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. And number 3, watch the next video where I explain the method I used to get my tinnitus down from a 9 to a 1 out of 10, and I even have days when it's completely silent, even though I have hearing loss, which you just saw in my audiogram. Now don't worry and see you there in the next video. Bye!